So we know that summer is right around the corner when Dolce & Gabbana releases a summer flanker to light blue. Light blue is a very popular fragrance. I personally own many flankers from this collection. Of course, I have Italian Zest, Sun, Love is Love. I even smelled Discover Volcano swimming in Lipari. I mean, as far back as it goes, to be honest with you. So I was actually in Macy's the other day and I picked up a few fragrances, if I'm being honest with you. I picked up the new Lacoste, which is right here, the L1212 Blanc. This is the 2021 version. And of course, I also picked up the Most Wanted by Azzaro. But of course, the one that really leans towards summertime wear is this one right here. This is a grapefruit dominant fragrance and the newest addition to the light blue lineup. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on it, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin my fragrance review of Light Blue Forever by Dolce & Gabbana, I do want to mention that if you are fans of fragrance-related content, if you like fragrance reviews here on YouTube, but also top 10 videos, giveaways, unboxings, special guests, and more, you know the drill. Please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please be sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell. So before this year, 2020, we had Light Blue Love is Love. Before that, we had Light Blue Sun. Before that, we had Italian Zest, which I wasn't really crazy about, although I have actually liked the past couple of years. You know, with Light Blue Sun, you kind of had like this coconut suntan lotion vibe about it. And then last year, there was like this fruity yet vanillic twist to the DNA. I forget what that fantasy note was, kind of like a sherbet or a vanilla ice cream accord or something like that. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. So here we have the inclusion of this really tart grapefruit note in the opening. And so if you're a fan of citrus and you want a citrus that in my opinion is really well done, I think you're gonna like this fragrance, especially for the first 20 minutes of its life. So as a matter of fact, this fragrance kind of reminded me a little bit of a fragrance that came out in 2009. If I'm remembering correctly, I think it was composed by Honorine Blanc. It's called Coach Leatherwear. And I remember that being like an amazing grapefruit fragrance. It has since been discontinued, unfortunately. This one was composed by a Givaudan perfumer named Shyamala Mason-Dew, and she has done fragrances for, oh gosh, there's Coach, Tom Ford. I believe this perfumer also did Velvet Orchid by Tom Ford. Specifically, that's the fragrance for Tom Ford. So with this fragrance, you have the grapefruit, you have some ozonic notes, you have a little bit of bergamot in the opening as well. I don't get anything too woodsy about it, but you do have violet in the heart, and I think there's vetiver from Java. And so anyways, I'm excited to give you my full in-depth breakdown of the smell and what I get from it, and also letting you know how I think it stacks up against other flankers in the light blue line. But let's start things off with the presentation. So as soon as this fragrance opens up, I get this burst of grapefruit. You're going to get so much grapefruit from this fragrance. As a matter of fact, that's kind of my favorite part of the fragrance. You know, it's very realistic in the opening. It's so juicy, it's so tart, and I think it provides the fragrance with a very unique aroma. Like I said, the last time I kind of smelled a grapefruit of this caliber, which really set the barometer for what, you know, grapefruit fragrances should smell like, was in 2009 with Coach Leatherwear, which has unfortunately been discontinued ever since. Now, this fragrance gives you an equally juicy and tart grapefruit. So if you're familiar with that Coach fragrance from 2009, you can kind of expect something along the same lines. But there's also like this vegetal quality about the fragrance that I'm having a hard time explaining. And typically when I'm looking at a fragrance by Hermes, let's just use Hermes as an example, in the Un Jardin line, I can usually point at an ingredient or a note within the note breakdown and say, aha, that's the reason why it smells vegetal, or that's the reason why it has that aromatic property in the core. So it might be something like tomato leaf, or it might be clary sage, or it might be, you know, something of that nature. I'm not necessarily getting anything in the note breakdown from this one, which kind of leaves me scratching my head a little bit, but I'm definitely getting this herbal and vegetal quality about it. Can't tell you if it's thyme or basil, but it definitely has something in there that kind of evokes the sensation of standing in the middle of a garden as spring is, on its first days of the season, if you will. And so it really has this organic quality about it that I really do appreciate. And there's a little bit of violet in here, but it's a very clean violet. If you have experience with fragrances like Dior's Fahrenheit, you know that it can kind of give off like a petrol feel. Some people say it smells like asphalt or tar or a mechanic shop, and I've heard some crazy things. And I kind of agree with it. That's the funny part. But I think the violet that's in here is very clean. It has a very smooth quality. And this is a non-linear fragrance, for better or for worse. And what I mean by that is, personally, my favorite part of this fragrance is the opening. I love the organic quality of that grapefruit. I love just how juicy, how tart, and how loud it is in the opening. Unfortunately, with that being my favorite part of the progression of the scent, it is very short-lived and it's not going to last beyond 15 or 20 minutes. It kind of dissolves into like this clean, still earthy, still vegetal, slightly soapy and woodsy fragrance. And there are some woods in the base. I think the vetiver has a lot to do with it too. And I also think that the vetiver is kind of amplifying that natural and earthy quality of the bergamot and the grapefruit in the opening too. So I do think that the vetiver serves multiple purposes in this fragrance, whether it's to be a fixative or to add to that clean sensation that you're going to get from this fragrance. The only thing I would say is that for a light blue flanker, it doesn't really do anything quirky. So when you take a look at the last two, for example, Love is Love had that like vanilla ice cream vibe about it, which was kind of quirky. Some people really enjoyed it. Some people didn't really care for it. And I can totally understand and respect that. The year before that, you had that suntan lotion vibe with Light Blue Sun. This one is really like, adding to the freshness. So light blue in and of itself is a fresh fragrance. So I feel like with this fragrance, they amplified the freshness, right? They turned it up to like an 11. And I like that. And if you're a fan of citrus, chances are you're going to really enjoy this one, especially if you're kind of tired of like that neroli, petitgrain, orange blossom combination that you may find in a lot of fragrances. And okay, you may say that grapefruit as a citrus note is a bit more on the unconventional side. And of course, we can include yuzu and a few other citrus notes under that umbrella, if you will. And so I kind of like that. So maybe there's a little bit of quirkiness. I should have been a little bit more fair. But personally, I kind of like this fragrance. I like it for what it's worth. I have a feeling that before long it will be on the affordable side. You will be able to find it at discounters. At that point, I would say it's totally worth the price, especially if you're looking for something very bright and fresh and citrusy. However, if you really want to capitalize on it and use it in time for the summer, I have a feeling that you will have to resort to paying MSRP for this one. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm definitely going to be wearing this one a lot over the summer. I really like that juicy, fresh sensation that you're going to get from the grapefruit in the opening. And I think that that's probably my favorite. I know it is my favorite part of the fragrance. I was going to say it's the best part of the fragrance, but obviously I think we're all mature enough to know that scent is subjective. But my favorite part are those initial 20 minutes. And that kind of leaves me wanting to reapply the fragrance throughout the day. So I may find myself decanting a little bit and maybe carrying like a travel atomizer with me throughout the day. But in any case, I think it's a solid release, especially if you're a fan of citrus-based fragrances. I think this one is going to tick off a lot of boxes for you. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, despite the fact that I did make a comparison to one other grapefruit-based fragrance, I still find this fragrance to be really unique. It kind of does its own thing, like I mentioned. It has this vegetal and herbal quality in the heart that I really enjoy, and it's clean all the way through. There are no rough edges about this one, and it's kind of loud and potent in the opening. Consider the non-linearity of this fragrance though when you're wearing it, and you'll sense that loud and robust and vivacious citrus opening is very short-lived. It's not going to extend beyond the 20-minute mark or anything like that. And then you're going to be left with this clean, soapy, green, herbal, and slightly woodsy fragrance that I think is still very appropriate for the summer months, and it will still give off the sensation that you're very well groomed. And so that's a good thing, certainly. In terms of the longevity on this one, you can expect about 5 to 6 hours on your skin. I know that doesn't necessarily meet the quota or the threshold for a lot of people. A lot of fragrance sensitive consumers are typically looking for a fragrance that lasts at least 8 hours, and so you might not necessarily get that with this fragrance. I think given the composition and the type of notes that are in here, I'm not too surprised. For a citrus dominant fragrance, I typically don't expect it to last more than 5 or 6 hours, and that's kind of what I get with this one, especially given the concentration. In terms of the projection, great. For like the first 20 minutes of application, it really will radiate even slightly beyond an arm's length, so you will get noticed. I really enjoyed that. And then I feel like at that 2 to 3 hour mark, it does start to sit very close to the skin. And then right at that 5th hour, you will pretty much need to reapply with this one. In terms of the versatility, I think it's great for the hotter weather. I wouldn't wear this one in the winter time. I do think that this one gives off a casual vibe, but it just smells clean and fresh. And so if you want to wear it formally, totally go right ahead. I do think this one is pretty unisex as well. And I can see anybody of any age really enjoying this one. So at the end of the day, I do find this to be a pretty versatile fragrance. The presentation is also really cool. I kind of like that Mediterranean feel with the bottle, and the name is pretty cool as well, Light Blue Forever. I like that they didn't go with like sport or noir or eau fraiche or one of these overdone labels, if you will. So my final verdict on this one is, I like this one. I like it more so in the first 20 minutes. That's my favorite part of the fragrance. I feel like it does change a lot. I could see myself really loving this one if that introduction lasted a little bit longer. I feel like it is missing the quirkiness of some of the other light blue flankers from the past, like the vanilla that you're going to find in Love is Love, or that suntan coconut salty thing that's happening in Light Blue Sun. But nevertheless, I like that they did go in a different direction, and I always have to applaud a brand when they're willing to try something new and to go against the grain versus releasing a very safe fragrance that might be a little bit plain and synthetic and on the boring side. Hint, hint. I have a review of this one coming out very soon. But anyway, I actually do like this one. My wife loves it, by the way, and so I'm going to be wearing it for her. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me. That was my review of Light Blue Forever by Dolce Gabbana. If you own or have tried this fragrance, please let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. I'm hoping you like it. I know fragrances are subjective, but I sincerely hope that for the majority of people out there that you do end up really enjoying this one. Again, if you're new to this channel and you took something of value from this video and you're not subscribed, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please be sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell. Thanks again for watching. Love you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.